everybody. I'm here with Jeff Willmore, which is both really one of my best friend, but really best friend. He rescued me when I was on my own and I lived with him and his wife, and then he became my roommate, and then we had all sort of adventure together and we were colleagues. So I'm delighted. And Jeff leads really extraordinary courses that have to do with innovative, uh, groundbreaking thinking in his approach to businesses, right, and producing results. And today, as what I'm interested in is consciousness and spirituality, we're going to talk about what is the place of spirituality in business.
Yeah, great. First of all, it's just great to see you, Sophie. Thanks for inviting me on to have a conversation.
What is a place of spirituality in business, Jeff?
It almost seems to be a impossible match.
I know.
Yeah. Well, the inquiry for me started years and years ago, before we knew each other. When I was in business, my twin brother and I started a business that we were moderately successful at, doing turnarounds, buying failing companies, and I had a epiphany one day that the fundamental source of our success was we worked our ass off. And when I looked around me, I saw the same theme. When it came to business, you had to outwork your competition, all that stuff. And it wasn't too much of a problem for me at the time because I was single and I was young and we were making money. And although I got interested in, there had to be some other way. And then, so I committed myself at that point to, I was going to get much better at this whole game of business. And I forced myself to read the Wall Street Journal every day. And I started to read all the latest business books. And then I had a second epiphany that really has stuck with me forever, which was everything I was doing is what I now term common knowledge. I don't mean common in a pejorative way. It's like common sense. It's such a truism, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't give you access to anything. Now that I know I should think outside the box, what does that give me?
Right. So you mean common knowledge, like the automatic way to deal with producing results in business is work harder, longer hours, dominate others, try to manipulate
I mean that, but even a level above, a little higher level common knowledge, like most of what consultants give you. So if I get a consultant to come tell me how to market my business, they go next door and tell them the same thing. It's common knowledge.
Right. Okay, I get that.
And it's not that some of that's not useful, but the epiphany I had is all this study I was doing for business that was primarily all common knowledge. All it had me become was more like everyone else. And I had this moment of almost like a Matrix moment where I saw this worldwide marketplace of all these people in business trying to be more like everyone else, and you're just fighting it out with each other. Mm. And the outcome is such a deadening of our soul and such an incredible human cost of our spirit, our who we are, what we want our lives to be about. It doesn't mean you can't make money doing that, because people do. But you end up with less of yourself, and certainly less of a connection to your own soul and what's the real meaning of my life.
Yeah. Can I ask you something? Because obviously I'm not expert in business, but everything you say just resonates so much, right? So about 2.5 years ago, I came back to the States and I started my business, access to awareness, right? Which is to elevate the global consciousness, right? And then I started getting advice and opinions. You should do that, you should do that, you should market, you should have a PR firm, you should. And my experience was nearly one of panic because I couldn't get into that frenzy of what everybody else was doing. And I thought maybe it's because I'm different and maybe because the aim of my business is different. But no, you're saying every single business, this anxiety of making sure you do what everybody else does and have an idea. If a new idea comes up, you try to grab it and do like everybody else. You say that is killing our connection to our soul, our self-expression, our soul expression.
Yes. I mean, just that's everything you said is just so mirrors the experience of practically everyone. So, many people, what motivates them to their profession or to even launch a business, if that's what they want to do, is, something that's got some connection to inspiration for them or some connection to what I would call their soul, what's deeply meaningful for them. However, the moment then I have to turn this into a business, the marketplace doesn't care about you and I living true. It doesn't care about our soul. I mean, it's going to be a ruthless evaluator of, does your product, does your offering, is it valuable? Do people perceive it as valuable? I mean, the world is filled with incredible ideas that people had and gifts that people had to offer that the marketplace just annihilated, you know? So for me, I've been intrigued with this question of how do I express my life's purpose in a profession or a career when virtually everything in what I call the force field of business, because it operates like a force field, like you get in it and you're trying to go up and the force field's going this way. Before you know it, you're going that. That was your experience when you launched your business. You had this intention and this force field starts to twist you and shape you, and
it took everything I had to resist it. And resisting wasn't even working. You understand? I had to go.
Yeah, that's right. It ends up having you question your offering and what your inspiration is. It has you question yourself, and
doubt.
So how does one design or create a profession, career, or business that, number one, has them experience living true to their life's purpose and actually fulfilling it, while at the same time they generate wealth with it? They generate whatever that is for someone, because I never use the term getting rich because I've never cared about that. At the same time, I have kids in college, so right. So and I was in while you and I were colleagues doing the ontological work we did, and we saw all those every weekend. You'd have those incredibly successful people come through, and you looked at what they sacrificed for that success. And that's where, somewhere along the lines, I had the epiphany that the whole thing had to be flipped. Instead of, I sacrifice important life commitments for the industry, for the business, for the company's mission, which you and I know well. I design a business or a career that fulfills my important life commitments. and by the way, that's not easy because there's no rule book out there. You can't do it with common knowledge. Um, it takes what I like to call a triumph of imagination to actually design my career, design my business so it fulfills what my life's about, not the other way around. Um, so that's I just it's it's possible and it's really challenging, you
All
know.
right, I have about 1,000 questions.
Yeah.
All right, so I know how I dealt with what you call the force field,
Yeah.
right? Which is this kind of magnet, like you have to fit in. You
Yeah.
have to do what everybody else, a little bit like if you do not, you're either going to be laughed at, and that's where you start to have all the doubts and all
Right.
the
Right.
lack of confidence, or you're seen as an outcast because you're not fitting in the mold, right?
Yeah.
So I know that how I did it is by slowing down.
Uh-huh. Perfectly
Everything I
said.
was doing is to
Yeah.
totally slow down and keep giving up attachment, giving up attachment, giving up attachment constantly, who took my 30 years of training, I tell you.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
what do you tell your students? How do you stay?
Well, I mean, slow down is one of our mantras in our
Really?
course.
Really?
Really, totally. It's, and it's for me, we took that from and Buddhism, it's a sacred act to actually pause.
Wow.
So in Buddhism, it's pause,
Hmm.
slow down.
Wow, how amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is literally one of our mantras in the course. Okay, hold on, slow down,
Breathe.
and yeah, breathe. Let yourself experience what you're experiencing. Let yourself look
Hmm.
and relook and rethink.
Hmm.
Um, and you're able to reevaluate assessments. You're able to reassess situations. Because I think the other thing that you didn't mention, but it was also in there, when you start to run into that force field and and you can feel that I'm not really aligned with all this. I'm not really aligned with how they want me to promote myself on Instagram. I'm not really aligned with that and the way I should use funnels. And it's I'm just but they're telling me I need to do it.
Hmm.
And it not only has you question yourself and you start to disconnect from living true to your own real intention and purpose, as a way not just to fit in, but to try and get success. And what comes with that now is the fear of failing and the risk of failing. And that slowing down allows you to think, design, and create, because you have to be connected to what I call the feedback loop. I mean, you can't be disconnected from the marketplace. I mean, you've got to connect with who are my people, who is this offer to, and who is it for. I've got to find a way in this super noisy, incredibly competitive. I mean, this is the most competitive marketplace in human history, primarily because of technology. I mean, someone can design their own website and launch it on Squarespace tomorrow, and they're competing,
Yeah.
and they've invested zero. It,
Mhm.
I mean, so the most competitive, chaotic, fast changing marketplace in human history. Um, how do I stand out? And it's counterintuitive, but it's inescapable that you can't stand out by doing more of what everyone else is doing. And you have to find a way to create what you're doing. And how do you say it? And how do you promote it? And how do you connect? and you have to be connected enough in that feedback loop so you're changing and altering what doesn't connect in a way that does.
Yeah.
Um, and one of the other bonuses of this is the marketplace values uniqueness hugely, enormously. And so you can't be unique in order to make more money. And yet a principle that I can now tell people, because I've seen it enough times, is the more you align yourself and your business with your essential purpose, the more success you will have. The more you stand out, the more people will find you. So, but you end up with a authentic business or profession of your own creation, of your own design, very similar to what you've done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
now, my other question, I'm a bit all over the place, right? But it's so
yeah.
fascinating to have someone that is actually an expert in all that. Jeff, I take people through a process where they remember they have an experience of who they really are, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They align with their soul, and then from the moment you remember who you really are, then of course you can then create and express yourself on the material plane. Now, one of the things of this force field, right,
Yeah.
is you have to make it easy for people. You have to make it easy. You have to do that. You have to explain. You have to, for example, when I post a video, somebody told me, you have to tell them minute by minute what you're saying so that they can jump ahead and just go to what interests them. And I go, no, we're living in a superficial kind of culture. I am not going to encourage people to take things out of context because they don't want to listen to me for 4 minutes.
Right.
So how do you deal with that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know, other than walking that tightrope. So you include enough of that so you're not just being obstinate, but at the same time, you're not going to design your offer and and compromise who you are to fit Instagram's algorithms.
Right.
I can remember a really great digital person I use who said, well, I think it was something like, well, if we post on Instagram twice a day, and okay, we'll do it. And then I think the next day I called her up and I said, I'm not going to do it. She said, why? I'm not going to design my life around Instagram's algorithms. I don't care what the impact is. So it's kind of a tightrope. Some things you can give on, and some things, no, I'm not doing that.
Very good. So
So
dance, right?
yeah.
And always bring it back to what you're committed to as a person, as a human being, what you align with, right? So if I am committed to people elevating their consciousness, I'm not going to do something that will address a low level of consciousness.
Yeah. Yes.
So do you take your students through what is important to them? Do you have your students, I mean, the people, I don't know how you call them, clients, students, participants, do you have them inquire into what is important to them, what are their value? And I'm thinking of money, right? A lot of people go into business to make money, right?
Right. Yeah.
So what is
there's certainly I'm not committed to it with people I work with, but there's always a few people who end up and telling the truth to themselves. It's like, I'm not going to do this anymore because I've only been doing this for money.
Right.
And there's I mean, no one's at the end of their life saying, I wish I'd worked more, I wish I'd made more money, you know? So, and that's where the challenge comes in, because on the other side of it, I think some of the really terrible advice that's become common knowledge, that's been out there in the world, is just find what you love and you'll never have to work another day in your life, or do what you're passionate about and the money will show up. And well, no, I mean, okay, I'll go teach yoga on the beach in Hawaii, and that's fine, but you won't have health care, and you'll be broke, you know. So it's not easy, and but it's accessing and doing the kind of thinking to really design. I mean, just look at your own experience over 3+ years to actually design a expression of your offering that connects to people, that at the same time you haven't compromised living true to your soul's purpose. That's not easy, and it's not quick. It's not, oh, I'll sit down tonight and I'll sort all that out. No, it's and I've found what's critical is start to put together a community of contribution, I call it, which, you know, many of us have that in different domains of our life. Maybe I found a great yoga community I'm part of, and I just get real nurturement and source from it, or maybe it's my faith community, or maybe it's various friends I've participated in transformational work with, and we have this whole community of possibility, I call it. Or it could be, you know, buddies from college and we still get together in golf, and you know, so many of us have those kind of communities. But when it comes to business, there's hardly any. When it comes to business, it's almost always around transactional relationships, and we don't have a group we can think with and we can design with. Because if I go to my broke family members for business advice, I get terrible advice.
Yeah, yeah.
Or some of those people I get real empowerment from in my yoga community, but I can't work out designing my offer with them in a way I get the kind of contribution and kind of design back. So that's also a big thing we work on, is starting to selectively put together the community of contribution. So I have people I can think with.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you look in your own experience, I don't know the details, but I think that you've done that, right?
It's amazing, Jeff. I
Yeah,
I think I did it, I think, instinctively. For example, I have
yeah, that's
a
right.
friend that has what she called, it's called Yoga Farm, right? And she has
Yeah,
thousands and thousands of students. She has an education in awareness, worked with the Dalai Lama. I mean, this woman has an education in consciousness that is beyond anything. And she has created, I think it took her 7 or 8 years. She
yeah,
has created this community where people are safe to come and inquire into the yoga, but yoga much more than the physical yoga, right?
yep,
The
yep,
world of
yep.
yoga. And we speak every single week for no other reason that she's committed to support me.
Yeah,
And
perfect.
that is exactly what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, and she's able to bring to that conversation not just her expertise and guidance from the world of yoga, but as a business owner, because
That's
there's
right.
something she's merged there,
That's right.
and
That's
that's unique. Mostly people have in business what I call communities of convenience, that they get together as long as it's convenient and as long as there's something in it for me.
mm,
and it's usually where can I get my next client from, or am I going to get business from this, or something. But you can hear what's there is that truly is a meeting of contribution.
A pure contribution. And
Yes.
listening to you, right, all sort of insight arise. Maybe the biggest contribution is by having this weekly call with her and her partners and sometimes other people, is that I did not quit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's the other danger, right? When you
Yeah.
start this, I'm aligned with my soul kind of business, is that sometimes you want to say, okay, let me just.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, yes. And that's any super challenging initiative is going to be long term. I mean, it's got to, for someone, it might be running a marathon, and that's going to take me a year, and all the times I'm going to think about quitting, And in this case, you can't get any bigger than aligning my life. And I wanted to take on business, not because I'm an expert in business, but because, I mean, if you're a professional, approximately 50% of your life is spent working. And just, I didn't want to end up at the end of my life saying, I wish I could live it over. I didn't want to end up saying, I wish I'd worked less and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it's going to be, how do I persist through everything that's going to come up from the failures, or there's no answers, because the common knowledge is just going to make you more like everyone else. So how do I design this? Yeah. And
How do you call that support system? You have a beautiful name for it.
I call it a network or a community of contribution.
That's lovely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeff, I know your time is short, but can you tell us in 2 or 3 minutes, do you have a course coming? How long is it? And just if
Oh,
people
great.
want to
Great.
find out, where would they go about
Yeah.
what you
do? It's a 1-year course. The next one starts in September. It's going to open in May. And if anyone goes to jeffwillmore.org, they can see the website and find out more about it, and feel free to reach out and chat. And overall, for me, I want to make a dent in the way business is practiced. So it's transforms from a extractive, both on the environment, but especially people. So it actually contributes versus takes. Anyway, we'll talk more, you and I.
I tell you, it was fascinating, and I thank you so much for coming. I'm sure we have 1,000 questions, and I'll have to apologize to everybody for my technical problem. I'm posting the video now.
Okay.
Big hug. Love you.
Likewise. I love you too. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.